Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening. Welcome to Clay's Couch. I'm your host, Clay D, the one and only, coming at you the best way that I know how. And I am welcome, honored, and privileged tonight to have a true boss lady in her own right. Certainly a change maker and a mover and shaker in the hospitality industry. I'm happy to welcome to the virtual couch tonight, Miss Ashli Johnson. How are you doing tonight,
Good
Miss
evening.
Ashley?
Good evening. I'm fantastic. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Clay. Good to be here.
Definitely, Ashley. Now, obviously, you do a whole lot. I've seen that you've been working in the hospitality industry since 2006 and all. So, could you just tell folks exactly who you are and what exactly you do and what you're about? Tell these great folks what a brilliant person you are.
Sure. Well, I can do what I can, right?
Oh yeah, I know.
So, to your point, I've been in the hospitality industry all of my professional career. And certainly before then, I like to think back to even as a child was working wine and food and cultural festivals, and at the
Oh,
time
nice.
certainly did not know that I was working in the hospitality space. But believe it or not, someone gave me the opportunity to run a concession stand by myself at a festival at 8, 9, and 10 years old.
Oh,
So
wow.
I have been in this space for quite some time. I studied hospitality management, both undergrad and have a master's in hospitality and tourism management with a focus in hotel investments. And so I often say that I've done a little bit of everything. I have worked in property operations. I've done a little bit of everything, both front and back of the house, from having exposure to accounting and finance, to purchasing and procurement and human resources.
Oh,
Have
wow.
done independent consulting, worked with a myriad of hotel owners
Woo.
and hospitality owners, entrepreneurs that are in this space. And took, I don't want to say a detour, but I took an unexpected path into education some years
Mhm.
ago, and have had the honor and pleasure of both serving in a faculty capacity, but also as an administrator in higher education, both at HBCUs and at PWIs. So I have had the privilege of having thousands of students come through my classrooms over the years. And so now I've returned sort of to my consultancy roots, and am the founder of two organizations, the first of which is called HLT 100, which stands for Hospitality Leaders Today. And that is a platform through which I invest in Black college students that are interested in starting extraordinary careers in the hospitality space. And I'm also the proud founder of an organization called Hospitality Hued. And our mission is to increase Black representation in executive level leadership roles, as well as in ownership across
Wow.
all segmentations of hospitality. So it's a lot. I stay busy.
That's good. That's great. I would definitely say that you definitely cover hospitality industry actually on all ends. Now I did do my research
All
and
right.
I've uncovered that you've been, as I mentioned previously, you have been working in hospitality since 2006, and I saw that as a corporate management trainee for Lowe's Hotel
Mhm.
uh, down down in Florida. Is that correct?
Yep, in Orlando, Florida.
Orlando, Florida. Okay, was that truly your first job in hospitality? I know you mentioned you had some experience going back to when you were a kid, but was that truly your first job in hospitality, especially if it comes to property property work, or like were you working on a property, or did you have more of a frontline role? You did mention that you worked at the front of the house, the back of the house, but
Mhm.
did you work previously as a front desk work or a housekeeper or such? Which one was it?
I
Because that's
did.
definitely
I did. So as we always say, hospitality is unique in that they value both education and experience, right? And more so, value
yeah.
experience over education in many instances. And so, I certainly had experience before walking into that corporate management trainee role. Um, Again, child labor laws probably would have prevented me from working in those concession stands at such a young age. But I would say, my first quote unquote real job in hospitality was as a front desk agent while I was in undergrad at the University of West Florida in Pensacola. So I worked at two, you know, side of the highway type of hotels that were located very in close proximity to a naval base. And
Nice.
so that was sort of like my first sort of foray into working at a hotel that was independently owned and managed. And I probably got more experience there than I expected because the
Yeah.
owners, while present, were relatively hands off. So many times I found myself, you know, running the hotel, having to tell a guest to, if you could just give me about 40 minutes, I'm going to go clean this room for you. And then I'm gonna come back and check you into it. Right. And
Wow.
so, learned so many things working in that capacity while I was in undergrad. And had some other really great internship, you know, formal internship experiences outside of that job. I worked at Walt Disney World and
Wow.
worked at some luxury resorts while I was in school. And those experiences really prepared me to be recruited into that corporate management training program with Lowe's Hotels.
That's amazing. And now, what inspired you to go into or study hospitality? Was it because you were working on these properties, or was it something that grew on you as a result of having just worked hospitality as a front desk clerk while you were in college, or was it like a friend, family member that kind of maybe had a hand in hospitality to some degree? Is that what led you to study hospitality while you were at West Florida and subsequently at FIU in a similar degree program in hospitality and tourism?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I am a product of a military family. My father is a retired Marine Corps major. And so my entire career, we traveled a lot. We moved around a pretty significant amount. And even from a very young age, I found joy, right,
Hmm.
in stopping at the rest area when we crossed over a state line and picking up all the brochures and identifying which hotel I wanted to stay in and which
Nice.
attractions were in that particular city. And so that's really where the bug sort of bit me, I would say. I certainly did not know that this was a career path. I didn't think much of it. I have an older brother that went into hospitality as well. And so he studied hospitality management. And so that sort of opened the gateway for me once I got to school. And to be honest with you, they did not offer a hospitality management major. You know, when I decided to go to the University of West Florida. And so I was a declared business major. And maybe after the first semester of me being there, there was an announcement made on campus that they were launching a hospitality management program. And I was like, that's it. That's the one. And so that's how I sort of got into, officially got into to this capacity and stepped onto this path into hospitality.
Great. Now, I also read that you were once a dean of the hospitality program at the University of Houston. Could you clarify on that experience? What
Yeah,
was that
yeah.
like? It must have been
Uh,
unique.
so I'm the former assistant dean of the University of Houston's Hilton College of
Okay.
Hotel and Restaurant Management, located at the time both in Houston, Texas, as well as San Antonio, Texas, and proudly served as the assistant dean. Had some phenomenal students come through that program. For those that may not be familiar, the University of Houston's program is over 50 years old now, and that program was initially endowed by Conrad Hilton himself, founder of Hilton Hotels. And so,
Wow.
you know, globally ranked top 5 program, and was an experience for sure. Oftentimes, I refer to as a unicorn in this business because it is extremely rare to come across someone that is able to ascend into the administrative ranks of a hospitality program or academic program without a PhD. And so I was grateful for that opportunity.
Oh, wow. So you went through. So you don't have a PhD. Is
I
that
do
correct? But you were a dean. That's great.
not.
Kudos to you on that. Now, I once have looked up like top hospitality programs
Mhm.
in different institutions throughout the country. The ones that always come up on many listings and such are Cornell. I also often see UCF for sure, and University of Miami, even like FIU.
Yeah.
Do you definitely agree with those rankings? Like I often see Cornell being as having one of the top hospitality programs in the country. Do you agree with that standing at all?
In my humble opinion.
That's why we have you here.
Are we gonna have a real conversation here
Oh,
tonight?
this is a real conversation. This is real.
So, hospitality rankings are hospitality program rankings are very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I will say that I think provided historical performance, output, and results, I do believe that Cornell University is a top-rated program for sure. It's not at all surprising to see them year after year land in a top spot. And because they have an incredible amount of alum that frankly are leading in the industry, right? And so if you look at the executive level ranks of any hotel company, you are going to certainly see a sprinkling of Cornell alum. And so that's understandable. I think what a lot of people don't realize is that hospitality rankings, depending upon the institution that is ranking it, it's for sale. And so you can buy your way into a top 10 spot for sure. These are, in many instances, opportunities for programs to advertise. It gives them an opportunity to market to students and potential donors. And so, yeah.
Hey.
So I think you can directly correlate. If you see one list and the top 5 looks completely different from another list top 5, that's where that mixed match comes from.
Wow.
So I would certainly say, top programs in the country, again, if you're basing it off of, where students land post-graduation, what types of opportunities they are afforded, typically you're going to see, a Cornell, an FIU, a Michigan State at the top of that list. And, I can say that those programs is warranted, right? They've earned it for sure.
Right. And reason I ask these because I like yourself, Ashley, have considered going the full hospitality routes, and years ago, even more recently, was looking into graduate programs or even PhD programs in hospitality and such. So from that research, that's why I know about this so well, and even working with Hilton Properties and even working over at Disney properties and resorts going many years back while I was in college. It was part of the Disney college program in itself many years ago when I was a younger man. So I definitely have that. Oh yeah. But I often did see kind of, I don't even want to call it a disparity, but it just seemed like there was in the industry itself, even on the academic side, it was more of a haves and have nots and not really too much of a middle area in a good pipeline, which I'll get into later with you.
Yeah, while you mentioned that PhD point, it is important to note, if you have listeners that are tuned in tonight, there is an enormous gap in the pipeline of Black and Brown PhD bearing hospitality faculty members in this country. So much so that most top programs are turning their wheels, trying to figure out how to get more people of color into PhD programs. And so as a result of that, there are, certainly more opportunities, scholarship opportunities, teaching assistant opportunities, folks that are willing to step up and pay for your PhD now than it's ever been before. So if that's still top of mind for you or top of mind for anyone that's listening, there are certainly I cannot, any program that has a PhD in a hospitality discipline, you need not but just pick up the phone and call. They are going to want to talk to you 100%.
Woo,
Yeah.
that's good to know that. You gonna have to have some offline conversations because
Yeah.
I want to be like Ashley when I grow up. That's
Be
what I
better
want to
than me.
own, at least. But I want to own something. We'll get into that a little later on. But just to add to that, Ashley, what would you say if you had to curate a list of the top HBCU hospitality programs? If you
Mm.
were to assemble a list, it doesn't have to be perfect, but is there any particular institutions, HBCU institutions that come to mind that more so fit when I'm asking? Who would they be? And don't even have to give like a 1 through 5. If you could just shoot out some names, I'll just be curious to hear that. And I'm sure others who will be listening and that we will share this with later on, the playback will be curious to hear this as well. So what are the top HBCU hospitality programs in America?
Yeah, so there's not a ton. Let's start there.
Yeah,
And to my
that part.
knowledge, there are no HBCU programs that offer PhDs in hospitality at this moment. And so if you or a student may be interested in pursuing a career in hospitality and are interested in also attending an HBCU, a few programs come to mind, right? Virginia State University has a program. North Carolina Central University has a hospitality management program. I mean, to be honest with you, listen, we can list them all right now, right? If you start sort of in the northeastern corridor, you're looking at Adele State, you're looking at Morgan State University. As you come on down, you can pick up Virginia State University, North Carolina Central University, Bethune-Cookman, Tuskegee University. I think Grambling may still have a bit of a program. Florida Memorial University has a partnership with Florida International University. So that sort of is a bit of an option of pursuing 2 degrees from both universities. There are a handful of HBCU community colleges that have hospitality management programs. But I will say certainly the most anticipated of them all is that last year, in the wake of the death of Marriott CEO, a gentleman by the name of Arnie Swanson, when he passed away, Marriott International, the Marriott Family Foundation, and the Swanson family endowed Howard University with $20 million to erect what will be called the Marriott Swanson Center for Hospitality Leadership. And so there has not ever been an HBCU hospitality focused initiative with access to those types of resources. And so I do believe that what Howard comes up with will certainly be a game changer. I was in attendance at the NYU Investment Conference last year, and NYU's hospitality program, their dean and the president of New York University made an announcement that any student that graduates out of that program is welcome to attend NYU's hospitality program for a free master's degree upon completing their studies at Howard University. So that in of itself, I think is huge and will certainly be a game changer. So we'll see what Howard University comes up with.
Wow, that's great. That's really impressive to know, especially since it's not even the same institution. And even more so because it's a PWI. Excuse me, it's a HBCU, and the PWI have that type of pipeline relationship. That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
I definitely
also worth noting here, Clay. I would be remiss if I also did not mention, little known Black history fact is that Florida International University, while not a HBCU, is the largest producer of hospitality graduates that are African American.
Oh, okay.
So FIU last year launched an initiative to start closing the gap on Black students that are pursuing hospitality degrees trying to identify students at an earlier sort of stage that may be interested in going into academia and teaching in higher education. And so
Wow.
FIU has an entire initiative behind that. And Dr. Brian Barker is leading that program down at FIU, and it is housed within the Chaplain School of Hospitality. So that's another opportunity if anyone's looking into it.
Wow, that's huge. Thank you for dropping those gems, Ashley. 'Cause that's certainly information that, even as much as I follow the industry and know about it and am associated with it, I didn't even know that much information. I did, however, know that NYU has or had or have a great hospitality program,
Great
for which I
program.
even looked into years ago, also because my father's alum of NYU. That, for that aspect and all that, but I did this hearing about that relationship between Howard. That's really great for sure. And it's
Yeah.
funny you mentioned North Carolina Central University. That's actually literally like right down the road
Eagle Pride.
from where I'm sitting from right now.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and for sure, I definitely did catch that once, but I didn't know that they had a pretty good program. But
Yeah. Yeah.
learn something new every night. Now, speaking of the teaching aspect of it, have you also, and correct me if I'm wrong, have you also taught hospitality and tourism in the public school K through 12 system as well?
Oh yeah, you did some research.
Oh
Indeed, I did. So I
yeah.
was blessed enough to be working in the Washington D.C. market when DC Public Schools started making a transition towards helping students identify potential career paths much earlier on. In their sort of educational process. And so, they were starting to have conversations with middle schoolers and elementary school students to say, hey, these are, some incredible options that are available to you, not specific to hospitality, but hospitality included. And so, as a result of that, came what they called career academies. And so, I was again blessed and fortunate enough to be a part of the launch of
Wow.
the Academy of Hospitality and Tourism at Frank W. Ballou High School in Southeast DC. If anyone is listening from DC, they know about Big Bad Ballou, right? And so, a really unique program in that students at that time were coming into the program as sophomores. And, when you're in high school, you get to, pick and choose an elective or two. And so students that were a part of the hospitality program, we made those two electives hospitality specific, right? And then when you start thinking about young people and what they're up to over the summer, right? For the most part, kids are at home, kicking it, right? Chilling out
Yep.
over the summer, really not doing much. And, to my earlier point about hospitality really valuing experience, we were able to, during the school year, expose those students to hospitality professionals that look like them across all sorts of segmentations and different roles that they could go into, able to expose them to hospitality programs across the country, so taking them on college tours so that they could see what these universities look like, learn more about the hospitality programs there, and then over the summer partner with local hospitality leaders to get these students jobs, right? So they were
Right.
able
Right.
to work and gain quality experience and make some money
Yeah.
each of the
That part.
summers. And so upon graduation, provided the courses that they have taken, they probably would have already earned some college credit, right? They would have already started building relationships with, multiple hospitality management programs at the collegiate level, so they know what direction they're headed in. And they've made some money along the way, and they already have the experience. So it really was setting them up for success upon graduation to really accelerate their careers beyond Southeast DC, beyond Ballou High School. And so a lot of those students are doing very well. Many of them have returned home to Washington, DC, which is, that was a part of the vision, right? Go off, get your education, get the experience, and then bring that back home and sew it back into your hometown. So, a tremendous program. Lots of high schools across the country have that type of programming available, and it certainly gives students, I would say, an advantage as they're going into, their college years and beyond. So they're ahead of the game for sure.
Wow, that's definitely needed,
Yeah.
because I could just tell. This is a point of personal privilege again. When I was a younger man working in hospitality and all, often when I would try to advance, because I'm a very ambitious person, try to be management or go into that, and often it was levied at me, which I'm sure you heard us across the board, but not enough experience. And the funny thing is that they'll probably still say it to me, even though I'm like I'm like a well-established or corporate individual. But I say that because I have wanted to work full-fledged in hospitality, but I've had so many barriers and roadblockers, and that's really the simple truth of that matter. Because I want to work at least on the corporate side of Hilton Worldwide and Disney and whatnot, but just trying to go up through those ranks was just, quite frankly, just very difficult, which is why I have sought after alternative career paths and such,
Right.
because of that, because of all those roadblocks and barriers. But
Yeah.
so I feel as though there's a robust pipeline, it really does cut out that red tape, because I do often see in the hospitality industry there is a gap between the head the heads and on the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
and that the middle is very narrow and very linear,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost as though that on the industry side, whether it's with a franchise or if it's like a corporate franchise company that happens to own different Hilton or Marriott properties, or even property wide, they often end up, meaning management or corporate managements, they often promote not even really in a good way. It's just more so who they like at a particular moment, whoever, even though I pretty much ran a hotel almost like from the way you described, from top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So that really, it was kind of a discouraging aspect, but I definitely do think for those who may not necessarily see hospitality as viable, but let's just say they're working there in college or working there in high school, front desk or housekeeping, they could see that, hey, look, if you have a program like you do in, like over with in the DC public school system, which you were part of, as well as Howard, and that feeder program, I really think there can be a lot more retention in the industry, especially with Black and brown folks. If I'm just to be quite frank and blunt there, and
Yep.
because even so, I really don't want to just see us on the front lines. Yeah, we might have a management position here or there, but I'm talking about really as being established in the ownership and the corporate side of things, which I'll get into in a little while. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's I
Yeah.
think it's very good what you're part
Listen,
of.
the pipeline of talent exist. Part of the reason why Hospitality Hued came to fruition is to prepare us for those opportunities, but also to connect us to those opportunities. And so, I often get the question, Ashley, how do you know so many people, or how did you know about
Yeah.
that opportunity? And so that comes from having a level of connectivity, right? And so, if you are, I don't know, working at a Fairfield Inn in Alabaster, Alabama, right?
Hmm.
It can be very difficult trying to identify, how do I get out of here, right? I've been working at this front desk. I understand how to run the hotel. A lot of it starts with educating ourselves, right? We've got to start asking some better questions. And I don't think it's necessarily about working harder, because we know that we are no strangers to hard work. It's really about working smarter, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, anytime someone reaches out to me saying, hey, I'm interested in this job, or I see this opportunity, I want to apply for it, I'm always asking, what are your next 3 and 4 steps past steps 1 and 2, right? because these 2 steps need to be able to position you to get to steps 3, 4, and 5. And that means asking some additional questions. Who owns this hotel? Right?
Yep.
I would bet, I'd be willing to bet real money, USD dollars,
Yep.
that 90% of people that work at the property level across the country, doesn't matter whether they're at a select service property or certainly at a luxury property, lifestyle property, or anything in between, cannot tell me who owns their hotel, right? Or they're thinking, oh, it's like one person that owns it, and they don't understand what the ownership structure of that physical piece of real estate asset is, right? That's one. Who do you work for, right?
Yep.
And so oftentimes I hear folks say things like, oh, I don't like Marriott. I worked at one of them hotels. I know I'll never work for Marriott. The reality of it is that you likely never worked for Marriott. You likely worked for Clay's management company.
Yep.
Because Marriott was on the door, you thought that you were working for Marriott, right? So first things first, who owns your property, right? Second thing is, who's the management company, right? Because 9 times out of 10, the management company is not the brand. And so now you need to start asking more questions about the management company. Who owns the management company? How many other hotels do they have? How many different brands are available under that particular management company? Meaning, if I work my way up at this Fairfield Inn, did they happen to own a Westin so that I could gain experience in a full service hotel? Do they also own hotels that are outside of my immediate geographical area? So are there places for me to grow and ascend and expand my career? All these things, right? People don't ask enough, who am I going to be working for?
Yeah.
Right. We hear all the time that as we're being interviewed, we should be interviewing the company. Right. But we're not asking, hey, where did you come from and how did you get here? Because if your boss hasn't navigated these things, how are they supposed to help you? You can't. You just can't. Right. And so, even, folks that will reach out to me and say, hey, I'm working in this tertiary market, there's no way out of here. It's like, are you involved with your local CVB? Are you like, where's the hotel association? Have you been have you joined? And even folks that work at a corporate level, I'll say, hey, do you know so-and-so that looks like you? That is, 10 offices down. And they're like, no, I never heard of the person. Listen, y'all better start going through these internal directories.
Yeah, got to.
Reaching out to people and introducing yourself and asking how I may be of assistance. And hey, next time you're in town doing a site visit at my property, I'd love 15 minutes of your time to talk about what I'm interested in doing next, right? You have to start connecting the dots for yourself. And so often, folks that don't look like us ask me, how can we get more Black people into leadership? Where can we find them? It's like, first of all, you need to be looking internal. You've got the talent in-house. You just don't know where they are.
Yeah.
You have no clue that front office manager actually has a master's in hospitality management and could be doing more because you never even stopped to ask the question, right? So, I think we have to do a better job as Black professionals of positioning ourselves to sort of ascend through the ranks and finding opportunities, not only in leadership, but also in ownership and investment. But we also have to learn how to, sort of speak up on behalf of other folks. And, another day, another session on the couch, we can talk about how we have to get out of this. I made it, so I can't help someone else.
Oh, shoot.
I just got this VP job, so I can't hire another Black person, right? We got to get over that. We got to get over that. So oftentimes when I'm speaking on a panel and, DEI is the sexy topic of the day and of the hour, I always say, I'm not interested in a conversation about diversity in the most diverse industry in this country. It's diverse. Talk to me about that's it.
We're gonna have to have a part 2 in person. Yeah. I'm dead serious. I got an in-person podcast show too now. So that's gonna be more because what I constantly hear all the time, Ashley, is that hospitality industry producing the most jobs, and yes, that is factual. There is it's a fast engine economy. It's very diverse, But this is what you also have, and you can definitely confirm. You can definitely fact check me because I don't mind doing that. Even on my own show, you can say no, it ain't accurate. But what I often see is just because you create hundreds of thousands of frontline roles and people look like us, to me, that does not qualify as a huge economic driver or success. I don't count that. I'm sorry. I mean,
It
yes,
is not.
I'm glad people have jobs on the baseline, but I want to see the diversity reflected in corporate leadership and franchise leadership and management and with these associations, etc.
Exactly.
Because AHLA, because for those
Let's
who are
talk
listening,
about it, Clay.
let's go there. Let's go there. American Hospitality Lodging Association. Now,
Hotel Lodging Association.
yes. So that's the acronym, folks.
Yep.
I have even heard that and you know the acronym better for the Black Hotel.
NABHOOD is the National Association of Black Hotel
Yes.
Owners, Operators, and Developers.
Yes. So I met one of the owners in South Beach years ago, and this is probably was still relevant, and I'll get to that in a second. He owns the Hilton South Beach Cabana. You know that's Black owned.
It is.
Yep. So that's how much homework I've done on this. I met him. He go, oh no, I don't fool with AHLA. We protested. We boycotting them because they're not allowing us in. They're not allowing us in leadership positions and such. And I'm like, oh really? Yeah. And guess what? As we speak here in 2022, I look on their staff profiles or directories. Still no representation that looks like you or I. But you they probably ain't ever gonna deal with me after this interview, but in any regard. But they will have the nerve to say that we are producing jobs, we are creating programs and diversity, and they have DEI like it's nothing over the last couple of years, especially since the racial reckoning. I'm serious, and they wanna celebrate that like we got DEI and we have all these jobs, or we're doing so much, and you want to keep using our faces as housekeepers and everything else, or any others below those lower level positions. Like I'm supposed to be impressed by that. Child, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That don't mean nothing. That you gotta show me more. Heck, I've even applied for positions with AHLA. They ain't even about to call me back. So I ain't got no I'm just saying. But we definitely gotta do the work. Those who want to be in hospitality, especially if you black or brown, gotta do the homework, and you almost have to disrupt because they ain't ever gonna come up to you. Oh, you do so well at this desk. I know people who I used to work with who still do not are for many years. Like, oh, I'm still trying to get in management. I'm like, you've been for 15 years. Then you have these young white guys and white girls who get these sales management jobs. And let me stop talking. No, I ain't gonna stop talking. This my show.
Here's what I'll say. AHLA has been, historically the banner association for the hotel industry. I won't say hospitality, but for the hotel lodging sector of this business. And so you're right. Leadership wise at AHLA, there is no one of color, Black, that holds a leadership position, and I would count leadership at the association level, vice president or above, right? AHLA has become more reflective of the diversity of this industry on their boards, right? So their advisory boards do have Black representation on them. Now, Clay, what you were referring to, are some of the educational foundation initiatives, right? And so You are absolutely correct. But you know, here's what I will say. I don't think that AHLA is alone
Oh yeah.
in this thinking that, hey, we want to support diversity, and we're going to provide skills-based training, skills-based, like, come on, I'm gonna teach you how to make this bed real good so that you can or I can teach you how to work this property management system so that, you know, hey, maybe you can, you know, work the front desk, right? And so I can say that I have had these conversations with folks that don't look like us, that work at the highest levels of many of these brands. And so if you think about the members of AHLA, their membership is brands, right? And so often we hear about initiatives like, hey, we give opportunities to young people if they're not in school and they don't have a job and, you know, they're, you know, out of high school, they can come work for us. In what capacity is the real question, right? If you maybe have a high school diploma, but you don't have a college degree, or you're not actively enrolled in a college program, is there opportunity in hotels? Absolutely, right? You can see today the folks that have ascended the ranks, but they've hit a ceiling.
Yeah,
Right?
that's what happens.
I've worked in this business for less, you know, they say, oh, I've worked here for 15 years. I never had a degree, but, you know, I busted my butt and now I am, you know, I don't know, director of catering. And it's like, okay, can you do something beyond that? Will you be given the opportunity to do something beyond that? Maybe not, because at that point, that's where the education, you know, kicks in. And so, yes, I'm seeing a myriad of opportunities for people of color to get into the business. And, you know, Clay, if I'm honest, if I hear one more person tell a story about how, you know, this is the only business you can start as a dishwasher and end up a CEO, I'm still waiting on somebody to point out that CEO. Who is it?
I'm so tired of hearing that too, Ashley. You won't believe how many times I heard that.
Does not apply to Black people.
Yes.
Right? There is one Black CEO that is playing, you know, at a very high level in this space, and that is Leslie Hill, CEO of RLJ, right? Leslie wasn't washing nobody's dishes. That's just these are just the facts, right? Now, Leslie is one of the sharpest, most brilliant minds in this business, but that is not her testimony, right? And so when I hear folks say, oh, you know, oh, I started, you know, I heard a CEO that will remain unnamed for the purpose of this recording. You know, a CEO was of a hotel brand that we are all familiar with.
I know which one it is.
You know, said to a group of people, you know, one day, it's like, you know, general manager is the best job in the business. You know, when I retire, I'm going back to being the general manager.
No,
you can't sell us on general manager is the goal, right? Because here's the thing, Clay, and people don't like it when I say it, but here are the facts. The origins of modern day hospitality in the United States is rooted in slavery.
Oh, that's the first time I heard that.
Nobody wants to acknowledge that for me is really where this equity conversation is rooted in. Because who built this, right? Who were the first cooks and chefs?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, who were the first folks that were making up beds to welcome guests into their home? Who were the first bellmen? Who were the first valet drivers? Who were the first right? Black folks. And so certainly when we come into the conversation, and I mean, sure, we can talk about the Green Book because, but again, the origins are rooted in slavery, right? We
Woo.
learned and perfected this service, right? And over
Mm-hmm.
time, there was
Woo.
a time where, hey, yeah, you know what? We did own some stuff because we had to, right?
Yeah.
Because where else were these people going to stay? And so these early hotels were the extra room that we had in the back of our home, and
Yep.
we built on an extra 2 rooms so that we could welcome in weary Black travelers that could not stay anywhere else and be safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where early ownership came from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then when things changed, we went back to these service level positions. So if we really want to have a conversation
Well, we can have
about
it.
equity, about who should be having a significant amount of ownership in this business, should be folks
Mm-hmm.
that created it, right?
Yeah.
It really
Shoot.
established what this modern day interpretation of hospitality service really is. And so, like I said, that's a conversation that many are not ready to have. But this
Well,
is also why I'm constantly encouraging Black professionals to what I tell people all the time: 10x whatever your dream is, right? So
yeah.
when I meet young people or even professionals that say, I don't know, one day maybe I could be a general manager of this hotel. It's like, okay, that's cool. And no shade to any of the GMs out there, right? Because we
Yeah.
need them, right?
Yes, exactly.
And I know some phenomenal Black hotel general managers, right?
Exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's what, they are operating in what I like to call their ministry, right?
Yeah.
But if you can manage a small city, which is a hotel, right? We're talking about you
It
are in
is.
charge,
It is.
depending upon the size of the property, but let's say it's a full service hotel. We're talking about, you're responsible for managing a 20, 30, $40 million budget. You got, 5, 6, 7, 1,000 people that work for you, in addition to the 2,000 guests that you're serving on a daily basis. You are running a heck of an operation,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
And so
That's a good way to look at it.
you can't transfer those same skills into a regional role, into a vice presidential role. And it doesn't always have to be rooted in operations. If I can run that hotel, that means that I've mastered the P&L, right? I've mastered this
Yes.
profit and loss statement. So why can't I go work in finance?
Shoot. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I know these numbers like the back of my hand.
Yeah.
Why can't I go work in asset management, right? And so there are just so many opportunities that sometimes either we overlook or no one has spoke to us about it. It's like, listen, how a hotel runs and operates. It's like there are just so many. Oftentimes I hear Black professionals, young folks say, yeah, I want to go into sales or HR. I always ask more questions. Tell me more about that. Why you want to be in sales? Oh,
Yeah.
because they get to wear their own clothes and they fly, and they got a credit card. They get to entertain people. And I always tell folks, listen, if you are a talented person that works in sales, right? You
Yeah.
know how to identify a need, anticipate a need. You know how to exceed your client's expectations. If you can sell if you can sell, $100,000 wedding and execute on it. If you can sell big meetings like an event planner or a conference planner, I always ask the question: have you ever considered selling hotels?
Hey, wow. Love that.
It's not for
Love that.
everybody, but it's for somebody,
Exactly.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and oftentimes I hear people, they get discouraged and they say, I'm leaving the industry. I'm going to work in banking. So you going to work in banking, but all these brands have finance departments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm leaving the industry because, I've been studying for my real estate license, and, now I have a real estate license and I'm going to do that instead. It, seems like, I'd be happier doing that. Why aren't you selling hotels?
Yeah. See, that's me. I wanna own hotels. I don't see the dream to me has manifested from. So if we're gonna strictly talk within the vein of the hospitality industry, it wanted to be general management. Now I don't want to be a GM because I like to have a work-life balance, even though I probably don't even really have much of one now. But, but as a GM, you don't really, it's like the hotel's like your baby, essentially, as you were just mentioning. But then it start going up into corporate. Okay, I want to do government relations. I want to be a GAD with Hilton or with Marriott or with Radisson Group. Or Best Western. Now it's like, okay, well, yeah, maybe, but I'm more entrepreneurially thinking now. Almost like yourself. I want to own properties. Like I want to be a black hotel owner. I don't care if it's, well, I do care, but I would like to own a collection of, obviously the Best Westerns, because Best Western, as you know, is more directly individually owned to a degree as opposed to the other
It's a
chains.
membership-based model.
Membership-based model, yes, for those who don't know. But and in some Hampton Inn franchises, but now I'm like, okay, well, maybe some boutiques, maybe a new innovative way of lodging, and especially in this war that we're living in now. I mean, personally, I don't do Airbnbs. I don't know if you do. No knock against Airbnbs, but that's just not how I roll.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say that much. But
You know, I have
go ahead.
seen a surge in Black people using the language of ownership, certainly in the past 24 months, right?
Oh yeah.
Everybody wants to be an owner.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I told you before, I ask a lot of questions.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? So when somebody, and it is probably 3 or 4 times a week, my phone rings and somebody said, Ashley, how do I become an owner? And I say, tell me a little bit more about what you're referring to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of people really don't have a depth of understanding of the ownership model in the hospitality industry, because there are levels to this. There are levels to it. And so I often ask questions about, hey, what do you expect your lifestyle to look like, right? And so when folks say, hey, Ashley, I want to own a hotel. I say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's cool. So, if you close your eyes and think about the day in the life of a bed and breakfast operator, a bed and breakfast owner, right? That looks like a lot of work. I'm up early mornings, I'm up late nights, I'm cooking this breakfast, I'm stripping beds, I'm doing all of these things, right? And people are like, oh, no, I don't mean a bed and breakfast. No, I want to own a big time hotel. And, I think sometimes
Keep it real. Keep it real now.
feelings. I'm gonna hurt some feelings. I tell folks, Black people, do you want to be an owner or do you want to be an investor? Because it's 2 different things. Because you know what? When this
That's
hotel
a good one.
catch fire, I want them people calling me? I don't want them people calling me, right? And as an owner, right? Sure, I acquire a hotel property. Now I got to go find a management company to run it. 90% of the time, a Black person tells me, no, me and my cousin Pookie, we going to run the hotel ourselves. No, you're not, right? And I'm not saying that from a perspective of you and Pookie don't have the experience. I'm saying that you and Day Day and them don't want to live the life of operating a hotel on a daily basis. But also, if you really understood the ownership side of franchise branding, right? Like you become a franchisee, the brand's not going to let you run your own hotel.
Mm.
Right?
Yep. You're right there. You're correct on that part. Yeah.
Own a Hampton Inn and Suites, and me and Pookie are gonna run it ourselves. Okay, well, them people in McLean said you can't run that hotel because you can't show me on paper where you have operated successfully with a substantial track record, that you fully understand what these SOPs are and can give me any level of confidence that you can deliver on them on a consistent basis. Because these hotel brands are just like McDonald's, right? Them fries is the same, hot, crispy, might be a little cold, but they the same fries at every McDonald's. And people forget that hotels, it is the exact same model, right? So you want to deliver on that. And so oftentimes Black folks say, no, because, you know, when I get my Hampton Inn, it's going to be all of this. No, it's not. It's not going to be any of what you think it is. It's going to be what every other Hampton Inn and Suites is. Now, they may let you upgrade a couple of things, right? They might let you spend a little extra money on FF&E if you want yours to be a little bit fancier than the average Hampton Inn, but you're going to have the same breakfast, right? But folks aren't thinking about that when they think about what it takes to be an owner, right? Another reasonable question to ask: what's your credit looking like?
Ain't nobody gonna have that conversation.
When people say, hey, I want to own a hotel, I say, okay, what other franchise model businesses do you have experience with? Well, I don't have any other experience. The brand won't even sell you the franchise. What is your personal net worth? No one stops to think that these are the check boxes that you got to check off as you are completing the application to even submit to ask these people, will they sell you a franchise? Right?
Hey.
Now, Clay, I am a champion of ownership and entrepreneurship. I want everybody to own something. And I will say that I would say, you know, probably the first decade of my career, this was my language, right? My language was, oh, I want to own a hotel. Yep, I want to be a hotel owner. As I have grown and evolved, thank God, my language has changed. Now I want to be an investor, because guess what? Them dividend checks hit on a quarterly basis. Don't nobody call me when these sinks done ran over, when a guest got crazy, hotel on fire. Don't call me. Call the insurance company. And where's my money at the end of this quarter? Thank you so much. And you know what? At the end of whatever this run is going to be, 4, 5, 6 years, when the hotel goes back up to sell, run me my big check. Thank you so much. So I can roll it on into the next investment, right? So for me personally, the goal is, hey, I want hotel investments across the country, right? And Black folks say all the time, well, you know, anytime I'm pitching an investment idea to a group of folks that look like me, they're like, well, when can we go see the hotel? Why you need to see the hotel? This is an investment. Did you call Apple and tell them that you need to tour the facilities before you purchase a stock? You know what? I need to do a little bit more research. Do you have a mechanical engineering degree before you purchase Tesla stock?
Good
and
point.
Yet we don't go around saying, oh yeah, I own Tesla. Like Elon, who? I'm a Tesla. It's like,
you're so right, Ashley. You're right there.
You're an investor, right? And I think we've we as Black people that know the business, understand the business, I feel it's my duty to educate people and to not have people running around. Listen, anytime I support an equity raise of a Black developer, if I bring some Black folks to the table to have some money, their response almost always is like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to be a hotel owner. It's like, let me help you out.
Right.
The $100,000 that you put into this $10 million deal. Owner? I don't think that's, if this deal doesn't go right for whatever the reason is, right? Is it your personal assets that's on the line?
Wow. Woo.
Is it your name signed on the dotted line for, you know, for the $22 million loan it took to get this hotel off in the market?
Wow.
but you invested $75,000, and by all means, we appreciate your investment and congratulations on making a sound investment, because the money that you put into this hotel is certainly going to return more than what you would have returned in the same amount of time had you invested on the stock market, right?
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
some of these hotel deals, I mean, they got 2+% equity multiples on them, right? People are making money, but let's not go around saying, I'm a hotel owner. Now, by all means, listen, if you got a vision in terms of, branding and marketing, what you want these rooms to look like and all of this here, that's one thing, right? But it's something totally, hey, I like hotels. It's a sexy business, real estate, and I'm trying to make some legacy money here.
Okay.
Investor.
Okay.
We over here on the on the other side, because the folks that own hotels, 9 times out of 10, you hear this investment language from like Robert Kiyosaki, is that, hey, you want to invest other people's money. OPM is what you want, right? Other people's money. Because if a hotel costs $10 million and I want to buy it, I'd be a fool to spend all $10 million of my money into a hotel property. Nobody does it. Nobody. You raise money from investors, right? So perhaps folks want to be a developer, right? I want to be the person running point or quarterback on the deal. That's one thing. That's an option. But I don't know where we got so obsessed with this ownership idea. Oh, Lord, we a hotel owner. It's like, and if we really want to ask the question that's really going to hurt the feelings, Clay.
Okay.
How much equity you own in that hotel?
Okay. That's why I'm glad I'm talking with you, because
right. Because if I were to say, hey, I'm a hotel owner, one would assume I own a significant percentage of that hotel, right? Like, correct. Oh yeah, I should make, if not 100%, because that's really what it sounds like. Oh yeah, I own this hotel. It sounds like you own 90, 95, 100% of the hotel.
Okay.
Most of these folks you see out here, Clay, is talking about their hotel owners.
Okay.
Less than 1% of the hotel that they're referring to. Right?
Wow.
And so I think that changes the entire perspective. It's like, someone saying, hey, I own a hotel and like you can do it too. And then you get the, hey, let me see these receipts. And when the receipt shows 2% ownership, it's like, well, who owns the rest of it? And where's that person? Because I want to talk to that person, right? I don't think that there's any amount of shame. And it's much easier to diversify, your investment as an investor.
Okay.
As an investor, right? I just, listen, Clay, like I said, I can't tell anybody how to live their life, but I like it when them checks hit. It's direct deposit. It come, I get the little alert on my phone. It puts a smile on my face. I'm
oh boy. Well, as I said before, because I've done my research. That's why I connected with you initially. Like, okay, all right. So, like I said, I ain't joking when I say that. I do want to be like Ashley in that regard. So
Come through.
Oh, okay. I do, and you had me change my verbiage, so it's invested now.
Listen, money to be made, right? Really, I don't care what you call me. You call me employee number 2. Where's the check at? Where the cash at?
That's the thing with our people too. We get so caught up on the titles, but title's good. My mother once told me a title's good, but if you still qualify for food stamp, what good is that title? She once told me that. I'm like, yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah. We're looking for, I always say, does it have the opportunity to change the trajectory of my last name? Talk to me about that. Right? Those types of opportunities.
Right. For sure. I mean, and after what you said about the history of the hospitality industry, I don't even know if I would look at it the same. I mean, honestly, if this was told to me 2014, 15, 16, yeah, I mean, I'd be approaching things a lot differently if there was,
and that's the work that really has to be done, right? Of catching people younger, right? At
Hmm.
different stages in their careers. And it's not too late because listen, I come across people, Black folks, that work for hotel companies, brands, that work in executive level roles, right? People that have the discretionary income to own what they've been working in for 20 and 30 years, right?
Hmm.
Why would you just let this money sit here, right? I can recall some years back, there was a woman, I believe, that used to work in legal. I'm not sure if she was general counsel for Marriott, but she worked in a legal capacity at corporate for Marriott, and her role was to review franchise agreements. And she tells the story of one day I'm reading through these agreements, like these people are really out here, like how much do I need to get this thing together? Lo and behold, her husband worked in construction, a general contractor. Honey, that's a match made in heaven. You all have the capital to get this thing done, right? Instantly became developers, raised the additional capital that they need, hotel owners. Just like that.
Hmm.
Just like that, right? And
Wow.
so you hear some of the, I think Norm Jenkins is an excellent example of this. I think Norm was with Marriott Corporate in executive, leadership types of roles for certainly over 15 years. I want to say maybe 17 or 18 years. But had a complete shift of mindset that at some point, like, now hold on now. I've been working in development, seeing people buy, sell, trade these hotels, develop new hotels. I know what I'm doing because I'm helping the people do it from internal to the organization. He had a plan in mind before he ever left his role at Marriott that, you know what? There are only a handful of Marriott Marquis around the world.
That's true.
And I want to open the next one in Washington, D.C. And that's what he did. Took what he had from the brands, right? What I've learned, the game knowledge, real life hands-on experience. Said, Marriott, thank you so much for your time, but now I want to become a business partner with you, right?
Hmm.
So that's how he became the developer of the Marriott Marquis in Washington, D.C. That's how
Wow.
he became a Black-owned hotel, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just, hey, we could have been doing one thing for 20 years, but let me shift your mindset just a little bit and see what else is out there, what other opportunities exist.
Wow. Yeah, that definitely for sure. I mean, shoot, you know so much about this industry up and down from operations standpoint,
Yeah,
from sales standpoint, marketing standpoint, investor, real estate, even property management, and you're an academic. I mean, that clearly sets you apart
yeah.
from your peers in the industry for sure. I mean, that's a lot of hats, and it's inspirational for sure, Ashley. Definitely. I mean, we definitely need more. We need more Ashleys out there. We need
Indeed,
more.
indeed.
I don't want to say owners or hoteliers or
Hey,
staffers. But I'm going
hey,
to say
we need all things here, right?
true.
If
Exactly.
it's an owner, if it's a developer, if it's an investor, and I think one sort of lane that we constantly look over, if we think about the FF&E, the furniture, the fixtures, and the equipment that has to go into these hotels,
Mm-hmm.
what a huge opportunity, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you own a toilet paper company, if
Right.
you own a glassware company, you think about how much money a full service in glassware on an annual basis. Own the company and go supply chain route, right? Go procurement route. I got a product that needs to be in hotels. Think about it like from that perspective, right? I love seeing Black folks starting these wine and spirits brands, and it's
Right.
cool direct to consumer, but you need some distribution, right?
True.
I
Yep.
need I need this to be a permanent item I need this to become an SOP for a hotel brand. That my brand of wine has to be served every night during the happy hour. That's a bag, a big one,
Yeah.
game
Whew.
changing, right? So there's so many opportunities that exist. We just got to be prepared for them and ready to tap in.
Yeah, and definitely, we all play. All roles are vital, but
Oh,
to
absolutely.
me, as you were mentioning, it's about the pipeline and making sure that our hard work and our efforts are not just being recognized, but evenly and equally distributed. And as you even mentioned, to where suppliers can come in and you can have black owned wine spirits in these hotel properties or brands and whatnot. I mean, shoot, you could teach a whole business course on this stuff here. I mean,
Yeah.
shoot. do you think that do you think that basically in this you think that the Airbnbs can really, and I don't like Airbnb, so I always rattle against them. So, but hey, do you think that they can really compete or really change the game of hospitality long term? Obviously, they've been around for about a decade or so, at least now. But the, I used to once consider them a threat. Do you see that, or is there any way that they could truly disrupt the industry, or that's a fad and
I think they already
just
have. I think they already
hmm,
have. When Airbnb first came to market, Airbnb was like a curse word in these boardrooms, right? It was like,
hmm,
"Ooh, don't say the name of the devil in here," right? It's like we sort of put our earmuffs and was like, "We're not hearing this. We don't want to hear anything about it. Don't talk about Airbnb, and they'll go away," right? We enlisted, our governmental affairs teams to, attack them, at the local and state levels in terms of holding them to the same expectations of an actual hotel in terms of paying property taxes and these types of things.
yeah,
I think Airbnb has already proven to be a disruptor in this space because out of it, you see these other models of lodging options, things like Sonder and Lifehouse hotels. Kayak.com owns hotels now, right?
they do. I think they own one in Miami, if I'm not
They do.
mistaken. Oh, okay,
They
yeah, a
do. And
boutique,
listen,
yeah,
ADR is sky high. Like RevPAR is stupid at at that kayak on Miami Beach, right? And so I think that now it is very much becoming hospitality lodging specifically has always been very, very slow to innovate. And I think once we start embedding some of these tech pieces, they're accelerating this industry very quickly, and so we've got to keep up with that. I liken it to the yellow cab business,
yeah,
10
like
years ago,
Uber.
right?
Hmm.
It's like it was always inconsistent. You didn't know what to expect. You didn't know who your driver was going to be. You didn't know whether they were going the right way, the wrong way. Was the meter appropriately charging you? You didn't understand any of that, right? So people thought nobody's going to let strangers drive them around. Okay, the yellow cab industry had a decision to make. Either we are going to step our game up to meet or exceed the expectations of the customers that we're serving, or we going to sit here and hope that Uber don't make it. It's like now you are pressed to find a yellow cab if you're outside of New York City. So
Yeah,
we've got to learn how to accelerate the innovation in this business.
but with that, do you see a situation to where Airbnb and let's just say for the sake of this conversation, Hilton or Marriott's, there's a merger? Or do you just see it? I don't think Airbnb is ever going to, this is my, again, you can correct me if I'm wrong. They're ever going to completely take over to where even though
No,
inflation's sky high crazy, because these rooms are hella
yeah,
expensive right
I,
now.
I don't think
Child.
it's a takeover situation. I just don't think that hotels ever expected that they would have a competitor that's not another traditional lodging product,
Mhm.
right? And so they are very much competing, holding their own in terms of market share. Um, I do not foresee a future scenario in which Airbnbs take over. There's no more hotels ever, right?
Yeah.
I don't see that happening.
What about a merger? Okay,
No,
not
because
or
because many
acquisition.
of these hotel brands have created a home component to what they're offering, right? Marriott has a
Yes.
home rental service, right? And most of the larger hotel brands are following suit. So they are creating more options for their guests, right? You don't have to go to Airbnb. You don't even know what to expect over there. Come to a Marriott certified product, right? That you still get, the loyalty and the expectation in terms of cleanliness and what their product guarantee is, you can still get that without, going outside of our brand. And so that's
Sure.
how hotels are sort of structuring themselves to be able to compete.
Sure. So basically, just more individual competitors with an Airbnb. Like, sometimes you hear these, like, well, this black-owned company has a competition. It's a direct competitor to Airbnb because people got tired of being Airbnb while black. So
Yeah.
but I don't. They don't ever go anywhere because I've even tried looking into them. I'm like, okay, they don't really got nothing. Like,
Yeah.
just being honest. As they say, if you can't beat them, join them. So
Indeed.
now, just and since COVID and everything, and even with inflation right now, from your professional and academic or even operational expertise, why the hell are these room rates so doggone high right now?
The lodging business is coming back for every dime we lost in the pandemic. And guess what? There's cooped up demand and they're paying it. They are paying it.
Gosh.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, during the pandemic, you could find good rooms at like the higher ends, because of course they didn't have no food and beverage service, like dirt cheap, like almost like you're teetering around red roof prices, like 75. I even recall for like a double tree. I'm not even making this up. Like this was part of 2020. Just to even get away.
My laptop is gonna die. Give me 1 second. Let me grab the charger.
Mm-hmm.
Was not expecting this. Can we edit this out?
Oh yeah, no way, it will be. We actually gone over time.
No worries. It's a good conversation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we are back here.
My apologies.
So yeah, it's all good. It's all good. But basically, yes, you talk about defensive demand, everything, and as I mentioned that, like I was able in the heart of 2020, was able to find a room like a DoubleTree for like practically in the 70s.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
now in 2021 was a little better, but now all of a sudden, right here in 2022, I'm going to Fort Lauderdale this weekend, and my cousin is getting married at a Hilton Fort Lauderdale Beach. The rooms, even at a Hampton Inn or Hilton Garden, $200-$300.
Oh yes.
I'm like, if you don't got points, I'm like, shoot.
Listen, the business is back. Of course, that's good news for folks that work in the business, right? Because whereas there's been a lot of uncertainty in terms of folks' employment and if they wanted to stay in this business and that sort of thing, I think many of those worries are slowly going away. They're building, brands are building their confidence back in terms of them being able to keep staff on full time. But listen, as a consumer,
it's like hopping on that airplane. I'm like,
are sky high and they are not coming down. I mean, even when I look at some of the rate calendars, I mean,
Oh my
maybe you
God.
can find a decent rate on a random Tuesday in
Yeah.
June, and it's only for one night, and there's nothing else after that, right? So it's back, and rates are up and not coming down anytime soon.
You can't even forecast any relief like this.
No, none,
Oh my God.
none. Gas
Woo.
on,
Ah.
foot is on the gas pedal at this point. And I think the business is going to ride this as long as possible, right? I don't foresee any of these rates dropping through the end of the year, right? People are happy to get back out. Concerts are happening again. Festivals are back happening again. So folks, and there's still a good amount of people that are working from home. And so they have the flexibility of traveling during the week. So folks are taking full advantage.
Yeah, COVID really changed the game for sure.
It
And with
did.
all this, I mean, you had the first effect of the lockdowns, and hardly anybody, not even want to be in a hotel for that matter.
Yeah.
Now it's just like,
Now you can't keep them out.
and they're still being built everywhere. I mean, they're
Oh,
still
absolutely. The
being built
pipeline,
everywhere.
from the ownership side of the business, I think the expectation was like, oh, we'll be able to pick up, an extra 5, 10 hotels at a discount in the pandemic. And so once federal relief started rolling out,
Oh,
folks were
yeah.
like, you know what? I can probably purchase another one or two, but there were not hotels going on discount, right? I got a lot of phone calls throughout the pandemic, like, "Hey, aren't there hotels out there, being sold, at half off per room?" No, no, right? If anything, people were trying to add some additional hotels to their portfolios, but in terms of real estate sales, nobody was selling on a discount because it's the hospitality industry. It's never going away, right? And so people knew at some point it was going to come back, and when it did, it came roaring back. So
I remember hearing a chorus of folks and thought leaders saying the hospitality industry will never be the same, even after COVID. That you're never going to have full room or full house. Oh, I remember. You remember those? Remember those articles and people
yeah,
say that nonsense? Boy, they look stupid right now.
yeah,
I'm serious. They were saying that people ain't going to want to travel. People are going to be home even after COVID, even when things are better or it's over. It's never going to be the same. You're that in hospital and hoteliers need to learn that in the new normal that you're gonna have to learn to deal with half empty hotels. I actually remember if I could DM up these articles, I will literally will DM them to you.
yeah. It's like, listen, people were waiting for this to come back. People are trying to get their lives back, right? Like they're looking
Yeah.
for the lifestyle that they feel as if they lost in 2020, right? So,
Shoot.
girls trips and guys trips and family reunions and all of that is back, right? And not going anywhere, certainly not here in the US, right?
Yeah. So I got a little of a labor issue that even posed. I saw recently on LinkedIn even that you have a labor group that is saying that housekeepers want to work full time again. What I mean by that is that obviously they haven't worked much during this whole pandemic, even though things have improved. It's still not an everyday thing like it used to be, and they actually want to work.
Yep,
So and I agree with that because look, I mean, a lot of the plexiglass is coming down off these hotel front desks.
absolutely.
The masks are coming off at these hotels. Heck, they don't
Absolutely.
even have the lights on the wipes anymore like they used to.
They're all
I'm being
right.
and now but yet you're still are saying that well because of COVID it's on request only. I'm like, well, you're pretty much act like COVID's going, so why not let them work every day? That's how I feel. Wow.
Some things have changed in terms of I think the brands had no choice but to become flexible on the SOPs, and what the expectations were for franchisees in the pandemic, right? So when you think about, what Hilton requires a Hampton Inn serve for the free breakfast, right? How can you require that when my occupancy is less than 10%, right? and I'm fixing a full-on breakfast. So, they had to adjust some things so that franchisees could make it out of this alive, right? So that they could continue to own and operate these hotels. And so one of the, I'll call it a sort of a casualty here is the service of having your room service on a daily basis, right? It took a worldwide global pandemic for, again, lodging historically is just very slow to innovate, right? It's like, is your whole home cleaned on a daily basis when you're at home? No. Is that one of sort of the perks of staying in a hotel? Yes. Is that you don't have to make your bed every day and that all of your towels are going to be picked up off of the floor. But what owners and brands sort of came to, frankly, in agreement on is that, these rooms can go 2 or 3 nights without being cleaned, right? And it supports, the ownership thesis here is that I can save some money on the labor side, but now this presents housekeepers with an issue, right? Of how do we effectively adjust these labor models to where we can keep talent on, still pay them, and they can still make a similar wage. And let me be very clear, I am a champion. I literally was just having this conversation earlier today. Housekeepers should be the highest hourly paid workers in a hotel.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with that.
At the front desk, they the ones handling the credit cards. It's like the computer, frankly, is doing majority of the work, right?
Yeah, well.
It tells you when to swipe. You don't have to calculate how much money is being taken off in this card. The computer runs the night audit, right? I'm not saying that it is not of value what's being done at the front desk. And yes, you're interfacing with guests and all these other things. But we know from working in this business, nothing happens in a hotel until a room gets clean.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do anything with anything in this hotel without a clean room, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think that the industry has an enormous opportunity to reimagine what work looks like in this space, and an incredible opportunity to reset the equity scales here, right? We have now come to sort of, a soft landing space.
Yeah.
We can say, hey, we had plenty of time to think about this. We had plenty of time to crunch the numbers of how we can pay people a livable, equitable rate.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How we as brands and owners can still, let's be clear. These brands are still making money. Owners are still making money, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of, in the name of equity, can I give up a little bit of this to make sure that my housekeepers are not living below the poverty line?
Yeah. But on that note, and I do see a lot of, because I do research on Indeed, just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
I still see a lot of properties and corporate management groups. They are still trying to get away with a lot of things. Let's just be totally frank.
Yeah.
They're still not. A lot of them aren't raising their wages. Now, a lot of them have. A lot of them still aren't, or won't, or haven't. And then we have the Great Resignation, or as I sometimes call the Great Revelation, because people are having revelations that this ain't shit here. Excuse me.
Right.
First time I ever cussed on Clay's Couch, so that's the first. And this is by far the longest interview I've had too. So we got maybe two historical fronts. Yeah. And I don't even think I talked this much on my previous interviews, but yeah, but yes, but yeah. I mean, they're still getting away with a lot, and they still could do a lot more and better. Because look, as I just mentioned, I'm looking at this from a labor standpoint. I'm looking at it from a consumer standpoint. I'm considering all aspects. Charging the $200-300 a night for a Hampton or Hilton Garden Inn, but y'all still ain't raising these wages up. I'm sorry, that's just messed up. Yeah. And the housekeepers ain't working every day. Stop. Come on now. You know they're getting away with some wage theft there. Not to sound like a progressive organizer here. Yeah.
Certainly that is the case. And again, lodging being slow to innovate, right? When we look at why these other industries have become so attractive to people that worked in hospitality, that were maybe laid off, furloughed throughout the pandemic, they have found a better balance in working in some of these other businesses. And so, whereas, the capitalistic society that we live in calls for the man makes most of the money and you get paid some of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But part of what makes, I'll use the tech industry as a great example, is that, hey, in tech, I am afforded flexible work hours. I am afforded a very competitive wage. I am being bonused on an annual basis, or in some instances on a quarterly basis. I am not only compensated a salary, but I'm also compensated by way of a very aggressive 401k matching. I may be afforded stock options. And so when you line all of that up by comparison to the amount of output one may have been doing as a director, or even higher in the hotel business, tech starts looking very, very attractive, right?
Yeah.
And so while, hospitality has always been a fun business, right? It's a very sexy business. So it's attractive to a lot of people. I do think that we as an industry have to be more intentional about investing in the talent that's necessary to deliver the
Yes.
service that makes hospitality so magical, right?
Yes.
Like, there's a reason why, people really want to stay, I don't know, a Four Seasons hotel, right? Because maybe this particular Four Seasons has the most incredible service, right? You feel like you have a relationship with each of the individual staff members when you're staying here. It's an incredible, memorable experience when you leave there. You can't wait to come back to create another memorable experience. It takes people to do that, right? It takes people. It's more than the aesthetics of the room in the hotel. It's more than the status of I can snap a couple of pictures while I'm laying on the beach at this particular property. It is, hey, that housekeeper made my day. My front desk agent was phenomenal. The concierge made my anniversary the most amazing ever. That sort of thing. And so we've got to figure out a way, and not only identifying how to do that, but being committed to maintaining that.
Yeah.
I think that that's crucial, for maintaining, the legacy that this industry is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I do work in tech, and I technically still have a footing in the hospitality industry because, for full disclosure, I said I wasn't going to say it, but I'm just going to say it. But y'all still ain't getting no discounts, so y'all can just stay out my DMs and texts. But yes, but I am still technically a seasonal floater front desk agent who works once in a blue moon. And that's just really just to keep the benefit, because I work, but I work in consulting, and I work in tech and politics, etc. I wear a million hats just like you. So that's why I know the industry so well. But I say all that to say is that I do believe, and this is something that I thought was going to come out of this pandemic. It maybe still could, maybe still can't.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see, since they don't want to pay folks, I would like to see a virtual front desk. And I've seen examples of it in Europe, and I could show you that offline. But you have people working remotely or in hybrid format, and people, they come check in, they look at a screen just like we're doing here, and everything's visualized, and you don't have really no contact with anyone, and you go right onto the room, use your digital keys just like Hilton has, and everything like that. I would think that I was going to see more of that, and simply that has not been the case now. That doesn't mean it can't happen. In Europe, they have manufacturers who have a virtual kiosk, a virtual front desk. Why the major brands aren't doing that, I don't know. Maybe you could shed light on it. But given that we are so innovative, especially the tech industry, I'm surprised that has not been deployed. Kind of like you're seeing it more and more with
slow to innovate, right? And I think that the hospitality business requires an incredible amount of consumer education. right? It takes a while. It takes a long. I mean, you think about, the airline industry is a great example, right? It used to be like clockwork. You show up to the airport, you check your bags, you get on the plane. Can you imagine the millions of conversations that had to take place when these airlines started charging for bags? Like, oh no, you can't. You gotta pay for the bag. I gotta pay for the bag. I can't even. I mean, you think about how rough of a time that would have been if you were an airport, person standing behind that kiosk of, yeah, first bag's $30, second bag is $50. Like, if you don't pay it, you can't, the bag can't go on the plane. You think about how many conversations it took until all of us as airline consumers now are like, we're accustomed to it, right? But one of the things that really accelerated that process is that everybody went to that, with the exception of Southwest, right?
And JetBlue. Oh no, JetBlue charges now. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They do.
So it's an entire industry that said collectively, and there's not that many players in the airline space, but collectively they said this is what it's going to be, right? So that makes it a lot easier for that wave of consumer education. Like, hey, you expect the same thing regardless of the airline. Now with hotels, obviously there's a service expectation of, I want somebody to welcome me to this hotel, right? And while I agree with you, I have seen these virtual check-ins, if done well, and it's going to take a lot of R&D to get it right, right?
Well, we have the infrastructure for it. We do.
Certainly, people do.
Oh, yeah.
Overall, folks just don't want to make the investment in getting it down pat. I was in a condominium building in Miami about a month or so ago that had a virtual concierge. Scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, I've seen those. I looked those up. Yeah,
because the screen is blank at first, and then someone's like, "Oh, I like your shoes." It's like, what? Where did the voice come from? And sometimes the technology is delayed, so like the person's face doesn't pop up there right away, right? I think in hospitality, this could be something that I think select service properties could get into. I think lifestyle, upper upscale luxury, the service expectation is too great, right?
Well, yeah,
too great.
I'll tell you this. When I was talking earlier about owning and innovating, that's what I was referring to. Like, if I have my own boutiques, I'm going to have a virtual, well, not, virtual property for the most part. That, of course you had maintenance because only some things you had to do in person. But I was simply thinking along the trends of, well, everyone act like they didn't want to be near each other for a while. So for obvious reasons and such, but really just a way to be innovative and really just provide a different type of job for those who work in that. And it's because hospitality tech is in my opinion is growing. I mean, certainly. It just doesn't really get as advertised as much, but it's certainly there. And you already know what it was. I'm not going to name off any of them, but I think there's a role for displaced hospitality workers currently if they could gain the skills to work in hospitality tech. Absolutely. That's where my thinking is coming through. Okay, if you don't want to give me no $15 or $20 or any type of livable wage, depending on where I lived in, I work in hospitality tech. Yeah, that's where my thinking is. Absolutely, coming in with that.
The thing that I'm always brought back to is that it only works if it's extraordinary, right? So, while everyone can't be converted into, now all hospitality workers can't be converted into a hospitality, tech guru, right? Because everyone does not possess the soft skills necessary, right? Or even, the ability, it's a privilege to be able to work from home, that you have a laptop and a stable internet connection and a background that you can, feel comfortable letting the world see, right? I visited a hotel today called Refuge. Is a new concept in Charlotte, North Carolina. Toured the hotel. I
gotta see that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it is a beautiful space. And so guests are able to check in through their phone, right? So very similar to what all the larger brands have available. And, thankfully, the ownership team at Refuge is available, around the clock. They make sure that someone is available should a guest need anything. But a guest can check in and come in and out of the hotel on their own accord, simply using their phone. The space is exactly what someone would need. There are the little, opportunities to delight and surprise a guest. Lounge area, access to restaurants around, and those types of things. So I do think that there is a model that greatly benefits the hotel owner in terms of eliminating, nonprofit centers, right? There are a ton of line items in a traditional hotel P&L that don't make money, right? So how can we minimize those things, but not necessarily sacrifice guest experience? And so when I think about companies like Lifehouse, I think they're there, right? They have figured out the technology. They have centralized services that don't necessarily need to be at a hotel, and have really freed the actual space to become whatever the guest wants it to be, right?
Yeah.
But again, the technology has to be so airtight, because the second that has a glitch, isn't right, a guest is losing their minds, right?
Yeah.
So I think some people are doing it. I do like what the Sonder platform has available. I think from an ownership perspective, it makes a lot of sense. Like their approach to, hey, we're helping out developers that have unsold condo units, right? We'll furnish them for you.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and they're able to sign very limited lease engagement terms. So it's like, I'm not even married to this real estate. It's like, yeah, I signed a 12-month lease. Hey, we're going to do whatever we can to maximize the room rate in these spaces. And if it doesn't work out in 12 months, we're out. And if it doesn't work out in 12 months, we still out. They're not married to the actual brick and mortar, which is, brilliant.
Yeah. What's the name of that group again?
Sonder.
Sander. Saundер.
Sonder.
Sonder. And what was the location name in Charlotte you were talking about? That was
it's called Refuge.
Refuge. That's the name of the location. Okay. I'm definitely checking those out for sure.
Yeah.
But wonderful. Well, that is definitely, we gotta continue this conversation on another time on the other side, because we are way over. But way over. But for sure.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been delightful. Always excited to have conversations about areas of opportunity that we can be maximizing for people in this industry on both ends, both as consumers and guests, but also as the people and the energy that is really fueling this business. So
for sure. Where is your goal like in the next few years? I mean, obviously you've done so much in the hospital, you've done it all. I mean, what's the ceiling for you at this point?
Yeah, so I am more committed than ever to increasing representation of Black people in executive level roles and in ownership. I am committed to solving the chronic misrepresentation of Black hospitality professionals, and I think we can create some significant impact and change in this business, with the right people at the table, and the right tools. I think we have, as Leslie Hale sometimes says, we've got all the ingredients to bake the cake. Somebody's just got to stir this thing up, and I'm here to stir it up. So
that's good. Yeah. And tell folks how they can follow you and the name of your organizations again, as you mentioned earlier. How can they follow you? What are the names of the organizations? That way they can look it up, research it, and contact you directly, if you can tell them.
Yeah, absolutely. So HLT 100, if you have a college student or know a college student that is interested in what we do in that space, it is HLT100.org. Hospitality Hued, if you are a Black hospitality professional or a non-Black hospitality professional that is interested in advancing Black professionals and owners in this space, helping us solve this chronic issue that has plagued the industry since its inception, We can be found at hospitalityhue.com. If you are looking for me individually, you can certainly find me on LinkedIn, Ashli with an I, Ashli Johnson. And you can find me on Instagram at It's Ashli Johnson. So that's where you can find me.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, you heard it all, folks. And thank you again, Ashley. Like I said, we're gonna have another Clay Scouts in person on this, and we definitely will make it happen because we could talk forever. But you certainly are the epitome of Black hoteliers matter, Black hotel owners matter. Any other hashtag you want to add there, and your Black girl magic for sure. So keep up the great work. You have
Thank
a
you
new
so
friend
much.
in me, and I'm glad we met and spoke. And yeah, we'll definitely we'll keep this conversation going on the other side.
Likewise, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Clay.
All right, you have a good night, Ashley. Thank
Thank
you
you.
again.
You as well.